office today. 870-275-9799 is the telephone number. Joining us now, I want to welcome back to the program. We have the president of the Family Council, Mr. Jerry Cox, is on the line. Jerry, welcome back, sir.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be on your show. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, sir. And I'm always thrilled to have you on because, first of all, you know, the Family Council, you guys have been around for a long time, and you are one of the hardest working organizations in the state of Arkansas, advocating for conservative values. We're going to throw your website actually up on our live stream, but just kind of give us a rundown. Tell us what the Family Council is all about. Remind our audience.
Well, Family Council was established by me back in 1989, and we are a multi-issue pro-family organization. We are pro-life. We are pro-traditional marriage. We believe in limited government. We believe that taxes are too high, and we believe that the less government, the better for families out there who are just trying to make a go of it. And so if any of your listeners know anything about a group called Focus on the Family and Dr. James Dobson out of Colorado Springs, we are actually associated with them, and our views align very much with theirs. But I in a simplistic way, tell people that we take the values of Sunday morning church and we carry them into the halls of government. And so that obviously takes us lots of different directions. We go to the Capitol and we lobby on legislation. I think we secured passage of over a dozen bills this go around, and we tried for some and didn't make it. We were trying for a bathroom privacy bill, much like what they passed in North Carolina, and we were not successful in getting that done, but we did get about 9 pro-life bills passed.
Yeah. And there was, like I said, and I read your April newsletter, and we'll get to more of that here in a minute, but you certainly did say that there were some good things done on the so-called bathroom bill, which, like you said, I think is more accurately described as a privacy bill. Kind of walk us through that. Because I was talking to some senators who said, hey, this is an issue back home in my district. We've got, locker rooms and, people are trying to go in this locker room or that locker room. So it is a problem. But that, down at the Marble Palace, they tend to say, hey, this isn't really a problem. We don't need to be doing this. So what all happened behind the scenes there?
Well, it's all said and done. Some of this stems all the way back to 2015. When we were able to pass a religious freedom bill that a number of LGBTQ individuals thought somehow would infringe on their rights. And so they all came to the Capitol and they protested and carried on. And I think the governor and some other lawmakers decided, you know what, we don't want those people back out here, and the best way to keep them home is to not run any legislation that aggravates them. And so early on, the governor said, we don't need a bathroom privacy bill. And let me clarify what that bill is. It just says that if a facility is funded with tax dollars, then men and boys have to use the men's facility, and girls and women have to use the women's facility. It wouldn't even affect Walmart or Target or any private place out here, but at our schools, our colleges, our state parks, our public buildings, then if you're a male, you go in the men's side, and if you're a female, you go in the women's side, and that includes showers and locker rooms. And, Paul, I thought all the time I was growing up there was a law that said men had to use the men's restroom.
I think I did, too.
But there's not. If I believe right now, if you just walked in there, used the restroom, washed your hands, and walked out, I doubt that anybody could charge you with a crime. Now, if you're harassing or stalking or doing other things in there, yeah, they could probably get you. But it's just a common sense kind of bill. But the governor and others said, not necessary, not a problem. But are we going to wait until some little girl is molested in a bathroom by some man before we say it's a problem? I thought we were about preventing bad things from happening rather than waiting for it to happen and then try to close the barn door afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and I'm glad that in talking about this, you referenced what happened in 2015 with the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. I mean, because that was, there was the initial version that was better than the one that we ended up with.
Yes.
And in large part, let me ask you this. You think those protesters that came down in 2015 and maybe some of the corporations that called the governor, I mean, that's kind of why the bill that he did support, the original Religious Freedom Act, he decided not to support that any longer.
Oh, I think definitely the protesters, the gay protesters, got all the media attention stirred up, but the corporate interests were the ones that really put the heavy pressure on. Walmart, Tyson, J.B. Hunt, different ones like that made their voices heard on it. I think that made the difference and caused the governor to say, let's do a weaker version of this. But to me, when people say, well, it's not a problem here, but we know it's been a problem.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate you guys. This is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We're building a liberty machine. And it's Monday. Thank you so much for starting the beginning of your week with us here at the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. The phone number, as always, if you would like to contribute to the program, is 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Wow. We got a big week. We got a pretty cool whiteboard this week, carefully crafted tax increases. We're going to be going over that. You know what's due out this week, though, Joe? The Conduit for Action legislative scorecard from this 91st General Assembly. That is due out this week. And I'm really excited about it because it means that we're going to get to look and see how some of these legislators voted and where they rank on the scorecard. And here's the thing, because I haven't seen anything yet. I don't know specifically who's going to fall where. I take that back. I've seen a few things, but nothing like final, conclusive, or anything like that. Because I was actually curious. With exactly what was going to go into the process of scoring individual legislators in Arkansas. And, of course, there's the Conduit for Action freedom filter. Does it grow government? Does it increase dependency on government? Does it spend money we don't have? Yeah, all of those things are real. But, then it dawned on me, all throughout, I don't know if you remember this, but all throughout the 2017 legislative session, there was article after article after article. Matter of fact, weekly updates. Every week, Conduit for Action came out with a scorecard of bills that were being debated, bills that had just been filed, upcoming pieces of legislation, and basically they used that freedom filter. So to me, it's pretty easy to understand. If you want to know what is important, and if you're a legislator right now listening to this, first of all, thank you for listening. But if you're kind of curious as to where you're going to stand, where you're going to fall in the Conduit for Action scorecard, just go look back on the website, conduitforaction.org, and look at the bills they scored already. Look when it was being debated, this is a good bill, this is a bad bill. This is a good bill, these are the reasons why it's a good bill. This is a bad bill, these are the reasons why it's a bad bill. And then so some of this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. These legislators should know. Yeah, I voted more, on the opposite side most of the time of what the recommendation was on why it's a good bill or why it's a bad bill or whatever it is. Again, the phone number 870-275-9799. I am hearing that legislative scorecard is going to drop sometime tomorrow, and so we'll have full coverage of that, and it's going to be really, really, really good. As a matter of fact, going over to conduitforaction.org right now, Joe. Show that up. We're broadcasting over at paulharrell.com, broadcasting at Facebook Live, broadcasting over on YouTube. So, matter of fact, if you want to get that scorecard early, or let's just say get the scorecard ASAP, you certainly want to subscribe to their email updates right there on the right side of the page. And so, yeah. And so anyway, that's gonna drop later today. Yeah. All right. So, I'm sorry, later tomorrow. But in the meantime, look at this new piece right here, a solution to Arkansas's government spending problem. Click on that. Let's go there because this is an incredible article today, right? A solution to Arkansas's government spending problem. Okay. It says this: it is true Arkansas's government has a spending problem. This article looks at those facts and offers solutions. Spending must be addressed before Arkansas can embark upon tax reform or economic growth. We ask those in power to reflect upon the serious consequences of current spending and consider capping the rate of growth as one solution. Capping the rate of growth is one solution. At the recommendation of Governor Asa Hutchinson, the legislature recently passed an all-time high budget. Only days after the governor was forced to cut his current budget as well as the next by $113 million. Now, this is a piece of information that we've talked about many times. I mean, it was amazing. Matter of fact, I attributed some of it to the grassroots effort that you guys were out there pushing when we were talking about all the revenue that they were trying to take from you. We're talking about all of the new tax increases and things like that. It's just incredible. The fact that they didn't get the revenue increases they want and then turn around and have to cut spending. Now, I mean, that's because the law requires the budget has to balance and that sort of thing. But this next point, though, is quite obvious. You cut $113 million, okay? This is in spite of record revenues. The state constitution then forces the cuts because the budget must balance. Simply put, we are attempting to spend at a greater pace than our record receipts can cover. Following the cuts, the governor assured taxpayers and state employees that the cuts will not reduce essential services, payroll, or bonuses. Now, keep that in mind. Or bonuses. So here is the big point on that. If the government can cut $113 million in its budget without paying, why spend the money in the first place? Let me say that again. If the government can cut $113 million in its budget without paying, right? The governor said essential services will not be reduced. Payroll will not be affected. Bonuses. We brought you that story 2 weeks ago. Merit bonuses are still in effect. They're going ahead with that program. People are going to get these 3% raises. So why are we spending $113 million in the first place if we can cut it and nobody feels any pain? Based on those, I mean, I'm not saying there's not some pet project somewhere, B-level funding, that sort of thing, but I mean, for the most part, essential services are right. I mean, that's what the Democrats are always going to say. Oh, essential services. Okay, essential services are fine. But all of your, political, pipe dreams, that sort of thing, maybe not going to be a reality because when we cut the $113 million. By the way, what does this show you? It shows you that if we stop politicians from trying to take more money from us, if we stop them from creating new vacuums, new tributaries, sucking up our money, then they'll be forced to cut the size of government, which is A very powerful piece of information if you actually understand it. If you actually grasp that. It's very powerful in its simplicity. You may be thinking, if the government can cut $113 million in its budget without pain, why spend the money in the first place? This coming from the governor that wouldn't cut $13 million. $13 million from a budget so we could pay for the military retirement exemption. Had to find a way to raise taxes elsewhere to offset it. Revenue-neutral tax cuts are not tax cuts, folks. We've talked about that one before. But you should also ask, why did the Republican-led 91st General Assembly just try to pass without success almost $400 million in tax increases? Could it be that left unrestrained by the people, our elected leaders in Little Rock will simply keep finding more and finding more and spending more of our money? So here are the solutions. As pointed out by Governor Hutchinson and others, if Arkansas plans to compete with other states, we need serious reforms. We are watching those begin with our tax code. But unless our spending is first brought under control, the only changes we can expect from the highly touted tax reform task force are carefully crafted tax increases. Before Arkansas can pass tax reform that would boost our economy, Arkansas must implement legislative restraint on its growth in spending. The time has come for a tax expenditures limit. Now, this echoes, not the first time by any stretch of the imagination, Conduit for Action has brought this up. But Tim Griffin last week certainly brought this to the forefront of the media narrative. I mean, what limited coverage it did get, not nearly as much as it should have, is the fact that Arkansas does have a spending problem. You're not really going to hear that too much from the mainstream media, the statewide media here in Arkansas. They don't want to admit we have a spending problem. Matter of fact, they just followed the governor's lead. You would think, especially in this day where the media is all of a sudden woken up and is trying to challenge Donald Trump at every turn, you would think that somewhere in the liberal state-run media, when the governor has to cut spending and says we don't have a spending problem, we have a revenue problem, and Jonathan Dismang, the president pro temp of the Senate, says the same thing, that there may be a little bit of resistance, a little attempt on the media to say, this is interesting. Republicans, the party, wouldn't the headline be the Republicans, the party that tries to limit government, that campaigns on all these promises, says that it doesn't have a spending problem. A lot of times when the denial can be the admission. The denial of something, there was nobody in the press, by the way, that was even saying that. Like, there's nobody in the press saying, hey, we have a spending problem, except me. It's almost like they were worried about getting out in front of the narrative that would form, the obvious conclusion that they were afraid people might draw for themselves when the headlines are unavoidable that the governor has to cut spending, and so they immediately project something that the media wasn't projecting at all, and the denial is, in fact, the admission that you do have a spending problem. I'm cutting this money here, but I don't have a spending problem. I have a revenue problem. Interesting. Doesn't even begin to describe it. If you know where to look, these folks in government and in leadership are jumping before I even say a word. It's almost like they're listening to the program. That's because they are. Phone number is 870-275-9799. Serious reforms. And I'm really glad Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin said what he said last week about we've got to control spending. We can't just, do these revenue-neutral tax cuts. We have to control spending. Listen to this. The only change we can expect from the highly touted tax reform task force are carefully crafted tax increases. Now, that is something serious to consider. Seriously consider this. I've said this since December of last year. The biggest question on many of these Republicans who run as conservatives but aren't, the biggest question on their minds is how to grow government without you finding out about it. How to raise your taxes without you finding out about it. Better yet, how to raise your taxes and you loving them for it. That's what they really want. How to raise your taxes and get the admiration of the people you serve. That's what they are really after. Folks, I appreciate you guys listening to the program. I also appreciate very much you sticking with us because I was out on Friday. I hate to miss a Johnny Cash Friday. I really do. Man, I had terrible. It was just a terrible case of the strep throat. It just kind of, you could, if you were listening to the program at all last week, you kind of heard it. You know, it kind of maybe started on Tuesday or Wednesday, but by Friday, I had no voice. It was the strangest thing because I thought I was over it. Thought I was around and then I went to the doctor on Friday and they're like, "You've got the strep." So I said, "All right, here we go." But I am doing better. Still a little bit under the weather, but I am feeling better. So the phone number to call us or text us today, 870-275-9799. And I am told that the Conduit for Commerce, not Conduit for Action, Conduit for Commerce will be coming out with a scorecard. And so that's going to drop tomorrow over at conduitforcommerce.org. So go there. And certainly go there for that. And we're going to make sure you have all the information. So stay tuned here with us here at the Paul Harrell program. And, of course, this is all for, and this is what a lot of people don't know, there's a certain award ceremony that goes on here in Arkansas every legislative session, and it has to do with the Calvin Coolidge Awards, which is one of my favorite times of year because we get to actually figure out who President Calvin Coolidge was and what was his philosophy on government. And it was spot on. And if there'd have been more Calvin Coolidges, we wouldn't be in the mess we are in today, that is for sure. 870-275-9799. Back in a moment. Buy, sell, and trade at Triple R Pawn in Ash Flat. Firearms, computers, sporting goods, musical instruments, tools, jewelry, and everything else you can think of. It's all at Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat. Gun enthusiasts, log on now to triplrpawn.com and browse their amazing inventory. That's triplrpawn.com. You can also call them at 870-994-PAWN. That's 870-994-7296. Let the great team at Triple R Pawn help you find what you're looking for. That's Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat, triplrpawn.com, or call 870-994-PAWN.
Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action, start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org, and stand up for small business in Arkansas. Whether you're looking for a small desktop copier and printer, thinking about adding color to your documents, or considering a document management solution, Total Document Solutions is there to help. In business for decades, Total Document Solutions is an independently owned company that specializes in the ability to provide a high level of service in Northwest Arkansas, the Arkansas River Valley, Southwest Missouri, and Southeast Kansas as an exclusive Platinum Authorized Sales Agent for the Xerox Corporation. At Total Document Solutions, they offer customers technology services to improve business results. Their dedicated sales team has the unmatched industry knowledge, professionalism, and expertise needed to address the unique challenges of your business. Total Document Solutions is independent, local, and well-connected to serve your office products and document needs. Call them today at 479-575-0770. That's 479-575-0770 for your Total Document Solutions. Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to Talk Radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
You're listening to the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, the Paul Harrell Program.
I'm going to tell you what I mean about carefully crafted tax increases here in a moment. I think I have a good example of it, and the only thing you got to do is just start to read some of the tweets labeled hashtag ARPX, or you can read State Representative Charlie Collins' Twitter feed, and you can kind of get... And no, we're not going to do it next. We're going to do it in the next long segment. But we're going to go to his Twitter feed. Honestly, we're going there because he's talking about how some of his ideas just aren't in the Republican Party platform yet. State Representative Charlie Collins saying that on Twitter. I find that hilarious. No, don't get me wrong. It's true. But now we're now getting to the point, well, I'm a conservative. I just disagree on this issue. And then those same people in the same camp, they disagree on all the issues. And now it's like, well, this is a great idea. It's just not in the Republican Party platform yet. Probably for a reason. Probably not in there for a reason, Charlie. But, I'm going to get to that here in a minute. Carefully crafted tax increases. That is our whiteboard for the week. Very much birthed from carefully crafted language, which is, of course, the messaging propaganda that government officials use. Most recently, these politicians have used it in conservative circles to try to convince Tea Party groups, Republican county committees, that the state is actually moving in the right direction and not moving backwards. It is, in fact, moving backwards in many instances. And if they had a viable Democrat, I mean, I just tell you right now, if they had a viable Democrat to challenge Asa Hutchinson, which they don't, the mainstream media would be singing a different tune right now. They see the handwriting on the wall, but they would be saying things like, well, we had a surplus under Mike Beebe, right? They would be bringing these points up. They'd be talking about having to cut spending. Now, Beebe was constrained by the Budget Act as well, in all transparency. Listen to this. Back to the Conduit Fraction article, real quick, Joe. Throw this back up there. It is time we restrict the rate of growth for Arkansas government from one year to the next. This is the most important point. This would give a predetermined limit on how much our legislature can spend in any given year compared to the past. Under a carefully crafted, let's see here. Hang on one second. Tax expenditure limit. Okay, there we go. Under a carefully crafted tax expenditure limit, rather than prioritizing how to spend all they can or they can get their hands on, the legislature would be forced to prioritize and spend only an agreed amount, with the leftover dollars returned to the taxpayers. Zoom in on that graph there. Get a real good picture of that graph. Here's total Arkansas government expenditures year to year. You see this? Now, this is in some ways unacceptable. Arkansas state government total expenditures from both state and federal revenues have increased from $2.2 billion in fiscal year 1981 to $23.8 billion in fiscal year 2016. There you see the graph. We got more graphs coming your way next. We're going to talk about this in the context of carefully crafted tax increases. What is coming down the pike? How much money is enough money? And I promise you the answer is there is never enough money for folks who believe that all good things come from the government. Back in a minute. So you've
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Of this, but to me, when people say, well, it's not a problem here, but we know it's been a problem elsewhere, it's a little bit like somebody saying, well, we've never had a terrorist bombing in Arkansas, so we don't have to worry about a terrorist bombing here. Well, if it's going on elsewhere, then you figure we ought to prepare ourselves for something here, and that's true with these privacy bills. They have had issues elsewhere, largely in schools, where some mother would decide that her 14-year-old son really is identifying as a girl, and pretty soon they're trying to put him in the locker room with the 14-year-old girls, and it just creates all kinds of issues. Or we have boys out here declaring themselves to be girls, and then once they do that, they're dressing with the girls, but they're also running on the girls' track team and trying to play girls' sports, and it just has a ripple effect that goes all over the place.
Yeah, you're certainly right about that. And speaking of, this idea of we don't need to address a problem until it exists, they actually did do something like that. I can't remember the name of that, Designated Survivor. You know, that TV show about everybody in Congress and everybody is killed in a terrorist attack. I believe the legislature down in Little Rock, they didn't have a plan if something like that were to happen.
That's right,
and they addressed it this last session. So,
which is good. I'm glad they did. I hope it's a good solution. But anyway, there's just that. And see, once the governor made his pronouncement that this is not a problem and we don't need this, then far too many lawmakers just kind of sat down and said, well, okay, then we won't do anything.
Yeah.
And that I find very disappointing. In fact, I've been going to the Capitol really since Bill Clinton was governor. And I think in many ways this legislative body was one of the least independent thinking bodies that I've seen in a long time. Because many times, Paul, I would ask a lawmaker about sponsoring a bill, and the first thing they would say was, well, let me go check. Well, check with who? Well, I need to check with House leadership, or I need to check with the governor's office, or I need to check with this group of people. And I'm like, can't you think for yourself? Why do you have to go get permission to file a bill? I thought you were, a strong, independent person out here. But we saw that far too many times. Or a person would file a bill, and then the leadership would say, don't you run that bill. And they would just wilt in the face of that and not run the bill. I had people promise to run bills that we wanted, and then they'd say, well, I've decided not to run it. Well, why? Well, leadership really doesn't want that. And that's just the end of it then. And so I find that very disappointing.
You write in your we talked about this a few days ago, in the April 2017 Family Council update. You said this in the second paragraph. The first trend is a new breed of lawmaker who is guided too much by legislative leadership and the governor instead of the party platform, their core beliefs, or the constituents back home who helped them get elected.
Yes.
And so it is kind of strange, you being there since Bill Clinton was governor, and Republicans are supposed to be the party of family values. They run on that. Matter of fact, I consider it kind of a low-hanging fruit issue because I think it's something that so many of us agree on, and then they. The
Paul Harrell Program.
Welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for being with us. 870-275-9799. All right, so here we go. State Representative Charlie Collins. Hey, you know what? Real quick, though, before we get to that, hang on one second, because I wanted to talk about these, local. Just real quick, Farmington, Greenland, special elections underway tomorrow. Okay, so voters who are in Greenland, Voters who are in Farmington, you will decide tomorrow whether to approve a 1% sales and use tax increase. So early voting is today. You can do that at the Washington County Courthouse, I'm told. As of Friday, 9 people cast ballots in the special elections, according to Jennifer Price, the Election Commission Executive Director. Voters from either city can cast ballots Tuesday at voting centers in Farmington and Greenland. 9 people? I'm assuming it's a normal early voting process of 2 weeks. Greenland city leaders have said that a 1% sales tax increase is expected to bring about $120,000 a year and pay for a bond of about $1.5 million in wastewater system improvement. 350 homes are on the system now. The city doesn't have the capacity to add to the system, Mayor Bill Groom said. Anyway, special elections for tax increases. I just always like to make people aware. Now, if you're reading over it, Scarlett Sims is writing this. She's writing that the new tax revenue will pay for construction improvements to the city's wastewater collection and transmission system, according to information filed with the county clerk's office. The tax sunsets when the bonds are paid off. Greenland has a 2% city sales and use tax. If the 1% increase is approved, the total sales tax rate in the city would be 10.75%. The new tax would take effect at the end of this year. Farmington city officials want voters to replace the 1% tax that expires in October. The tax brings in roughly $688,000. Has been used to pay for a sewer bond. If Farmington voters approve, half the revenue from the newly established tax will pay off the bonds, and the other half will be used for the city's general operations. So let's just take that Greenland rate, 2%. But you're in Arkansas, so, we've got other things that account for that, right? 10.75%. Now, just think about it. So every time you make a purchase, over 10% are going to run the government in some way. Now, this is in some ways, on top of the amount of money we were talking about, or a big portion of it we were talking about that goes to fund the government that we have at the state level, 6.5% sales tax. And then you start combining all these other things. How much is enough? That's the question. I asked that at the end of this last segment. But, what is the line? How much is enough? I mean, when do we say enough's enough? When do we say, 10? You know what? And here's the thing. There's always somebody say, but we really need this or we really need that. We're at, over 10%. Our average here in Arkansas it's outrageous. It's one of the highest sales taxes averaged in the nation from place to place here in Arkansas. Would 15% be too much? And this really kind of goes to the liberals, the busybodies, the people who are in government who advocate for more and more of our money to go to them. Would 15% be too far? Would that be too much? You guys seem to, it's kind of the same thing with the minimum wage argument, right? They seem to think that it's a fantastic thing no matter what it is. We have some people in Arkansas that operate our governments based on the fact that the more they tax us, the better off we are. Now, let's think about that for a minute. There are legitimately people in this state, I believe, that think the higher taxes that we have to pay, the more you tax the population, the better things are. I am ascribing to them the worse motives, yes, but there are some, I believe, that feel that way. Government is so important that there is no limit, there is no line. Like the minimum wage argument, we got to have $15 an hour to minimum wage because handing a paper bag outside of a drive-through window is a valuable skill. You have to go to school for years to learn how to put a hamburger in a bag, fold it just right, and hand it out a drive-through window. I'm not trying to be offensive, but come on. It's not brain surgery. That's hard. Brain surgery is hard. Cooking is not hard. Cooking fast food, especially, not hard, okay? That doesn't mean fast food's not good, okay? But here's the thing. Well, it's not really good for you, but that's another whole other situation. It's the same deal. Okay, well, if $15 an hour minimum is good and you think it's going to be great for our economy, why not $100 an hour, right? Why don't we just give everybody $1 million? Like government mandate, $1 million drops from the sky. Well, that would destroy our economy overnight. No, I mean, everything would, $1 million would be worthless, okay? Well, to take that same logic to people who want higher and higher, more and more of your taxes, there are some that just think there should be no limit. There should be no low. There's that every tax increase is perfectly reasonable, is perfectly sane. It's the crazies that it's the ones who are against it that are unreasonable. The ones who are against the police and fire, so they say, you're unreasonable. You're the one. You're just being difficult. I was talking to a friend today up in my neck of the woods where I live. I do the show here. You know, we're on several affiliates here in Arkansas and online. But for those of you who don't know, I live in Jonesboro. That's where I was born and raised. That's where I'm blessed to be able to do the show. And here recently, the city of Jonesboro, the residents here last year, they voted down one of these tax increases, one of these sales tax increases. And the way the city spun it was, well, we got to have this tax increase if we're going to do some vital infrastructure projects, very much like Farmington and Greenland, very much like, you know, a city. It didn't have anything to do with wastewater that I know of, but it was more like, hey, we've got a pretty busy intersection here. We need one more overpass to go over the railroad tracks. And then there was then there's a few other projects, and I can't remember them off the top of my head, but some expanding a highway because there's another busy intersection we need more lanes in and that sort of thing. And we got to have this. We got to have these projects, meaning we got to have this sales tax increase. We got to have more of your own money. Had a guy come in here today. He said, let me just vent to you for a second because you're the guy to vent to. Remember how we had to have the tax increase and all the citizens voted it down, but we had to have to do all these projects? They're now doing all of these projects anyway. We didn't give them the money, and they're now doing all these projects anyway that we need so desperately. He says to me, so where did the money come from? And we both look at each other and it's like, well, they clearly didn't need the tax increase, Sometimes when you put governments in situations and you say, we're not giving you any more money, they kind of reprioritize, or they do what ASA had to do and cut the budget. We don't have the money, so we have to cut the budget. There's things we have to do without. We have to cut $113 million, but nobody's going to hurt, right? It's not nearly as dire as we made it out to be. $113 million ASA cuts, and he says everything's going to be fine. Your life is going to be not affected by this. State employees, your lives are not going to be affected by this. So why were we spending the $113 million in the first place? Like, what was up with that? Now, all right, speaking of carefully crafted tax increases. Okay, let's see, which one? Okay, let's go there. Let's go there first. I see what you got up there. Here's State Representative Charlie Collins. And this is what he said. We're kind of getting into the back end of some of this. Forgive me, I'm coughing profusely in here. You have to forgive me. Let's see, which one is that? All right. So this is what Charlie Collins says on Twitter. Take a look at this. I support shifting Arkansas's tax burden from work and investment to sales, luxury goods, and services, and in parentheses, he writes, mansions, vacations, private jets, and yachts. So here we have Charlie Collins essentially advocating, Republican Charlie Collins is advocating a tax the rich mentality. That one thing that Barack Obama got to the White House on, taxing the rich. Now, he's conversing, you can see, with a Democrat, James McLean. James McLean lost his Senate race to now Senator Linda Collins Smith, a Democrat that some Republicans supported. I believe, was it, I don't know for sure, but there were high-level Republicans that actually were supporting Democrat James McLean. They didn't want Linda Collins Smith to win. And so this is a response. He's asking Charlie Collins here, did Charlie Collins just suggest raising taxes on luxury living? Hold on to your wallets, luxurious people. Republicans raising taxes on rich folk. Yeah, that's a big deal. Even James McLean, a Democrat, is like, hey, this is kind of funny. Republicans are trying to raise taxes on rich people because that's what Democrats do. Democrats love to put people in groups and highlight their differences and pit one another against each other. Now, you've got a very astute man, as you can see here in this tweet. A man named Alan on Twitter who's watching this conversation writes, I don't remember seeing this in the GOP platform. This amazing idea. He's saying Charlie Collins, again, he says, I want to shift the tax burden from work and investment to sales, luxury goods, and services, so mansions. So I guess what qualifies as a mansion? Does Jake Files' 10,000 square foot mansion that he's selling so he can move to Texas and still somehow be an Arkansas senator, does that qualify? Would that qualify? I bet that would be a mansion. He'd have to pay an extra rich person tax. I'm sorry, folks. I'm coughing in an immense amount. It's ridiculous. Vacations. What does that mean? How is the government going to be able to determine what vacation qualifies as a luxury vacation? Private jets, yachts. This is ridiculous. How are you going to do that? Are there a lot of yachts made in Arkansas I don't know about? I thought they normally make those close to the ocean. But I guess if you own one, there are probably a lot of private jets in Arkansas. I mean, there are. But, of course, private jets, they get positioned all over the place. It's not just a state thing, I don't remember seeing this in. Okay, so there we have that. I don't remember seeing this in the party platform. And this is Charlie's response to that. Click out of that, and then click on Alan's good answer. That's what we want to see. Charlie Collins says, in response to, I don't remember seeing this in the GOP platform, taxing the rich because we're the problem. When I say we're, I'm not including myself, but you understand. I have some great Arkansas ideas that haven't been written down in there yet, he says. So we are to the point now where we have Republicans who have been called out so many times, and even in casual ways, not even called out by people like me, who are, limited government wonks, if you will. We have people just casually on Twitter who are saying, this guy wants to tax the rich. That's not in the Republican Party platform. And Charlie Collins is like, yeah, I got some good ideas that aren't in there yet. Now, that's not to say that there aren't good ideas that aren't in the Republican Party platform. There are, but the hubris, and that's just what I would call it. I've said many times I think Charlie Collins is a nice guy. One of the reasons I say that is because he's always willing to debate, always willing to have a conversation. No matter how many times he's wrong, he's always willing to, and I respect that. And he would dispute my characterization of how him being wrong. But I just think this is just a lot of hubris. And Charlie Collins did not get on the tax task farce, but he did get on some kind of economic policy thingy, mabobby, that's, really wasn't even discussed at all in the legislative session. So that's strange. Do we have anything else? I think this, I just think it's incredible. You have James McLean, Democrat, is floored. I mean, that's the way I'm describing it. He's just like, wow. Republicans raising taxes. We have Democrats basically applauding Republicans raising taxes on. Now, the question is, he admits it. Well, that's not in the platform. I've got some great ideas that aren't in there yet. He's openly admitting, yeah, I'm not a platform Republican. I think we can 100% say that State Representative Charlie Collins is not a Republican. It's not a platform Republican. He's just not. The man's admitting it. He's going around with Barack Obama's ideas of taxing the rich. That it operates on this idea that we're not paying a fair share, right? Go to this next tweet, Joe. Yeah, the one that you have up. This is a good one. This is another one of his brain-busting ideas, okay? You look at this. Excuse my I've got a cold. He says that you could reduce Arkansas sales tax exemption on houses from 100% to 100% up to $500,000, and 50% exemption on amounts over $500,000 as an approach. So if you live in a $500,000 house, or if you ever dream to, and you're right on the cusp, you're going to have to work a little harder because you're going to have to pay that extra tax if Charlie Collins gets his way. By the way, I'm sure real estate agents would love this. Just going to make it a little harder for you to make that sale. Okay, that's going to have ripple effects. Don't think it wouldn't. So, and this is in response to somebody saying that we need a graduated property tax here in Arkansas. And Alan, this guy on Twitter, says, not sure that I agree with all your ideas, but I am enthused by you having the courage to think beyond party line. Good ideas before party. So this guy, Alan, on Twitter, he's, I guess he thinks of himself as a moderate, but he probably is a liberal. Could reduce sales tax exemption on houses from 100 to 100. So here's the thing. Because anybody that knows or follows tax policy is going to say that, well, Paul, in Texas, they don't have any income tax. And that's what you say. You say you would love for us to get to a point where we don't have any income tax. And a lot of people don't know this, but in Texas they have property taxes, right? And those property taxes, the property tax in Texas is the most onerous taxing structure that they have. Okay, property taxes in Texas are considerably higher than they are here. That's where Texas gets a lot of its money, right? No income tax, but you're going to pay for it. On the other hand, with property tax. Now, you're going to say, so is it a wash? No, it's not. We've given you numbers today that we haven't finished through yet over at conduitforaction.org, and last week with David Crow's article that Arkansas's government is so bloated, we are 40% larger per capita than the other states around us. And there's absolutely no excuse for that. But here's my point on all of this, okay? I don't really care, okay? Property tax, that's fine. I think we've got a lot of money, got all the sales tax money. But I promise you, if given the opportunity, the leadership in Little Rock would love to have both. And that's my point. They would love to raise your property taxes here in Arkansas and have it graduated where it punishes rich people more. And they would love to still keep your income tax. And that is actually what they want. That's what they want. I don't know how to break this to you, but that's what Democrats want, okay? Keep in mind that a Republican Party platform, which Charlie Collins now says he's beyond, is based on principles. That's why so many of us get so frustrated when Republicans don't act on principle. What we're really saying is you're deviating from the Republican Party platform. You're deviating from principles. Now, Charlie Collins says, well, I got some great ideas. He's saying I'm not a platform Republican. I mean, he's admitting it in the Twitter sphere that I'm not a platform Republican. In reality, what you're saying is you're beyond principles. Well, I'm beyond these principles. I'm thinking beyond the principles. I'm thinking what they love to say is pragmatic. Let's think of a pragmatic way to do this. Because principles get in the way of pragmatism, according to them. And really, just that whole argument is a way for them to come up with another word that sounds better than principles. Principles sounds, I'm a man of principle. And the other guy says, gosh, I'm not. Well, I'm pragmatic. I don't have any principles. I adhere to pragmatism. I get things done, which means I compromise, and I am extremely moderate. We got to take a break. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program. The Liberty Machine rolls on next.
Whether you're looking for a small desktop copier and printer, thinking about adding color to your documents, or considering a document management solution, Total Document Solutions is there to help. In business for decades, Total Document Solutions is an independently owned company that specializes in the ability to provide a high level of service in Northwest Arkansas, the Arkansas River Valley, Southwest Missouri, and Southeast Kansas as an exclusive Platinum Authorized Sales Agent for the Xerox Corporation. At Total Document Solutions, they offer customers technology services to improve business results. Their dedicated sales team has the unmatched industry knowledge, professionalism, and expertise needed to address the unique challenges of your business. Total Document Solutions is independent, local, and well-connected to serve your office products and document needs. Call them today at 479-575-0770. That's 479-575-0770 for your Total Document Solutions.
This is Common Sense and Liberty. I'm Donnie Copeland. The Republican Party of Arkansas has something called a platform, and it's basically what they believe. Things like lower taxes, right to own and bear arms, encouraging individual responsibility and initiative. Yet in this legislative session, we see Republicans fighting against the right to own and bear arms by amending over and over the campus carry bill. We see instead of lowering taxes and fees being raised 8 different times. We see the attack against individual responsibility and initiative by continuing to embrace Obamacare Medicaid expansion called Arkansas Works. So what we need is not conservatives or not Republicans, because those names don't seem to mean anything anymore. We need platform Republicans. This is Donnie Copeland for Common Sense and Liberty.
It's a PHP parody.
Hey, man, you got any of that marble rock?
Yeah, I've got the hookup.
Thanks. I need a fix real bad. I'm itching to grow some government.
How much you need?
I'm gonna need a taxpayer's dime bag.
No problem, sir. 1 taxpayer dime of marble rock. Enjoy.
Thanks, man. They don't call it Little Rock for nothing. Am I right?
Did you know your state representative or state senator may be addicted to growing government? The drug is called marble rock, and too much of it will cause marble fever. Watch for the warning signs. Does your legislator suddenly display a lack of humility when faced with basic questions? Does he or she suddenly develop hubris and pride that was not present during the campaign for office? These are signs they might be smoking the terrible drug, marble rock. The solution? Detox. Vote for detox. Vote to send them home for their own good. Warning! Some politicians once voted out of office will not go home and stay in Little Rock to get their fix by lobbying, also known as the Burris Syndrome.
PHP parody.
All right, so we got a text message here. We're going to be talking with Donnie Copeland, former state representative Donnie Copeland, coming up at 5:30 today. He is en route with Josh Waters to the Randolph County Republican meeting tonight over in Northeast Arkansas, Randolph County. And they're going to be armed. I mean, they've been to Deshay County. They've been all over the place. Faulkner County, Greene County last week, Randolph County this week. And so they're going to be around. So any Randolph County Republicans, if you forgot about your meeting, you have one, and you don't want to miss the information there. Here's Scott. Scott in Greene County writes, I'm a Republican, but I am ashamed of Republicans in Little Rock. Well, you're ashamed of Republicans. I totally agree. But they're not just in Little Rock. I mean, they're from all over. They just go to Little Rock to ruin your life. I mean, you know, your property and your money are not safe as long as they're down there plotting to hatch their next crony schemes. You know, that's the reality. It's the same in Washington, D.C. as it is here. So, anyway, folks, that's all the time we have. People who are in Farmington, feel free. Our listeners in Farmington right now, you can get the second hour of the program for free over at paulharrell.com. There's an audio-only button there, or you can watch us do the program live, get our information. We're going to check out some of these Conduit for Action graphs. We're going to finish up on this great CFA piece, which is a solution to Arkansas's government spending problem. It's up right now at conduitforaction.org. Go there now. My name is Paul. Thank you for listening. We can't do the show without you listening. We got one more hour. Back in a minute.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Kind of strange, you being there since Bill Clinton was governor, and, Republicans are supposed to be the party of family values. They run on that. Matter of fact, I consider it kind of a low-hanging fruit issue because I think it's something that so many of us agree on, and then they are not allowed. They think they're not allowed to vote because the leadership doesn't want them to. I mean, that's got to be really frustrating for somebody like you, who I'm sure, could see, that the Republicans are supposed to be the ones that, are siding on your side of the issues that you care about.
Well, and the other thing that concerns me is I'm afraid that the people that the establishment at the Capitol, House leadership, the governor, Senate leadership, and others, I'm afraid the folks that they recruit to run for these vacant seats may be people that are even more so that way, even less independent, even less, think on their own, stand on their own kind of people. And so if we end up with a legislative body where a few people say, hey, you have to do what I tell you to do because I got you elected, I've got a PAC over here that's funding you, and you better sit down and be quiet, and you'll do what I tell you to do, then we have lost that autonomy of the legislative branch, and the separate the power then is being consolidated in the hands of just a few people who are able to order everybody else around. Now, we're not at that point right now, but things are trending that way, and I hope it stops and goes back in the direction of having 135 independent lawmakers that think on their own, act on their own, and let the bills rise or fall based on the merits of the bill, not based on what some person in a leadership position wants to happen.
Well, and, you raise an interesting point, this idea of vacancies or primaries. I mean, do you think that maybe the people of Arkansas should pay attention in some of these Republican primaries that are inevitably going to happen, of which person in leadership is supporting? Because I got a feeling, we've already had this precedent. The governor took sides in the 2016 primaries. I got a feeling he's going to take sides this time next year. And so, do you think they need to kind of be watching?
Oh, my, yes.
Yeah.
Because, see, here's the thing. A number of Republicans who have run and are running probably this time around 15 years ago would have been Democrats. They would have run as Democrats. And so what you have are people that are saying, you know what, to get elected, I need to be sure I'm a Republican. But I don't know if their core values really align with that much with the party platform. And so that's something that people ought to delve into a little bit deeper, is say, okay, I see you have an R by your name, but do you really believe the Republican Party platform and the values of the party? Now, do I think the Republican Party platform is perfect, or that, they're the ones that are Christians and Democrats aren't? No, absolutely not. And what I do is I look at what our standard is here at Family Council, which is marriage ought to be the union of a man and a woman. The unborn ought to be protected. And women and girls shouldn't have to share a bathroom with men, and all those things.
You're a radical, Jerry. What a radical idea.
Yeah. And so whichever party comes closest to that, then I'm over there with them. And so, but that's the question people need to be asking of some of these candidates. Do you really believe these moral principles that have guided this party for a long time, or are you just kind of along for the ride and not really, don't really care much about those?
Yeah.
And so I think that's important.
I gave the Democrats a ton of criticism the ones who claim to be pro-life and then didn't vote to override Governor Mike Beebe's veto of great pro-life legislation, and they said,
right.
well, the governor's a constitutional scholar, or the governor told me not to, so I didn't. What's the difference in that scenario? And now Republicans saying, oh, I can't run this bill, or I can't support your bill because the governor doesn't want it, even though it's one of these issues that the people of Arkansas agree with, support overwhelmingly.
Sure, yeah. Or there's no difference, really, between when Mike Beebe would send his staff into a committee meeting to kill one of our pro-life bills. This time around, the governor sent 3 of his staffers, along with the Surgeon General, into the Public Health Committee to stop our health care freedom of conscience bill that would have ensured that little people out here working in a hospital couldn't be compelled to get involved in performing abortions or doing other procedures that violate their conscience. And so there's no difference between that. And so does this administration support pro-life? Yes, they do. But the minute that it gets crossways with corporate interests that don't want freedom of conscience legislation and bathroom bills and that kind of thing, then I find myself on the short end of the stick every time that happens.
Yeah, and that's incredible. Yeah, and that's
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
We may have to recount that story later on, but not until the end of the week. I have to. That's pretty good. Welcome, folks. It's hour number 2. My name is Paul. This is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. It's good to be back. I was out Friday with an illness. I got strep throat, and that's just it's just part of it, I guess. We've tried to Clorox wipe everything down in here, the microphone and everything. So hopefully we're out of the woods, but who knows? I'm feeling a little better, but I am dealing with a cough, so excuse me. You may hear little small pauses of me, muting my microphone so I can get my words out. All right. Phone number, call us, text us, 870-275-9799. Look at this graph. This is crazy. We showed this graph for you last segment, right? This is an amazing graph, really informative, and it's up right now at conduit4action.org. And it's part of the article, A Solution to Arkansas's Government Spending Problem. And this is incredible. Can you make that even bigger, Joe? No, is that all the Zoom that we have? Yeah, okay. So this graph that you see here is from 1981 to 2000 till today, really. And they've got it from Frank White's governorship of 81 to 83, Bill Clinton from 83 to 92, Jim Guy Tucker 92 to 96, Mike Huckabee 96 to 2007, Mike Beebe 2007 to 2015, then Asa Hutchinson 2015 to present. Now, underneath that, and this is color-coded red or blue Republican, blue Democrat, red Republican. Right underneath that, you have, and this is crazy, 81 until 2013, 2012, the Democrat legislature majority from 81 to 2013. Republicans come in 2013 with their majority, and of course, They grow government, the largest it's been grown in Arkansas history. And, of course, you had a Democrat governor then, though. So they had the help of the Democrats that were left, the BB, and a minority of Republicans. But this graph doesn't really talk about specific government growth and government programs, but it is talking about government growth in spending. As you can see that there, scroll down there. Let them read that next part. Arkansas state government total expenditures from both state and federal revenues have increased from $2.2 billion in fiscal year 1981 to $23.8 billion in fiscal year 2016. Now, I know what some of you out there are thinking, like, well, that's okay. That's okay because, that's just what happens. That's inflation. $2.2 billion in 81, federal and state combined, to $23.8 billion in fiscal year 2016. I don't know about that. I mean, that's a lot of inflation, right, folks? That's a whole lot of inflation. Now, keep going. This next graph is really good, too. Arkansas's total government expenditures versus personal expenditures versus GDP growth. Now, this one is probably the biggest rebuke I think you could possibly have, and it shows that our leaders have put such an emphasis on the institution of government as a whole. And you know why? You go back up and you see that see the Democrat legislative majority that you just saw, right? I mean, it's because that's their philosophy. I mean, they honestly believe that if we devote as much time to growing government as we can, that the people will benefit. Is that true? Is that the case? I mean, look at these numbers here. Conduit Fraction doing an excellent job. Arkansas government expenditures 202%. 202% from 1998 to 2015. Arkansas per capita personal expenditures 84%. Arkansas gross domestic product 96%. Scroll down a little bit, Joe. Between fiscal year 1998 and fiscal year 2015, Arkansas government spending increased 202.4%, or get ready for it, $16 billion with a B, billion dollars. Now, let me stop. I do a little trick here. It's a little I just have this memorized. Anytime we got to conceptualize how much $1 billion is. Okay, we're talking about $16 billion from 98 to 2015. $16 billion increase, 202%. Let's just think about $1 billion for a second. Okay, $1 billion with a B is the equivalent of spending $27,000 a day for 100 years with a little bit of money left over at the end of 100 years. $27,000 a day for 365-day years. That is a huge amount of money. And we're talking about, if you could conceptualize a pile of $1 billion in however way you can do it, now imagine 16 of those piles. Okay? It's a ridiculous amount of money. Don't get me started on $1 trillion. It's $27 million a day for 100 years. So you got to compare that, though. From 1998 to 2015, Arkansas spending has increased 202%, while Arkansas's personal spending grew only 84%. Arkansas's gross domestic product grew only 96% in that time. So somebody tell me if I'm right, and the reason we've seen such government growth is because, and this is really giving them the benefit of the doubt, because you can be sincere and you can be wrong, okay? If they're sincerely thinking, well, the government, our philosophy is the government will make the people prosperous. That's the best case scenario here. They have believed, the Democrats and here recently a minority of Republicans. By the way, there are good conservative Republicans, and I support them. But they believe that spending money in making government big and supporting these institutions will make the people prosper. Now, the question is, if we just take 1998 from 98 to 2015, for example, is that the truth? I mean, Is that? I mean, we clearly know that they value government above all things, above all else. If you look at this graph, what are the results? Well, the results are something's really, really, really out of whack. Scrolling down, it gets worse. Okay, in this next graph, what do we have here? Average year-to-year percent change. Okay, so this is a different way to conceptualize it. From 1998 to 2015, between 1998 and 2015, there was an average annual increase of 7.1% in Arkansas government expenditures. While Arkansas GDP growth was at 3.9% per year, Arkansas per capita personal expenditure growth was just 3.5% annually. Again, government increases 7% on average every year, and we're just barely getting by. Now the question is, let's just take Arkansas domestic product out of the equation, although it's very important, but let's just take that out of the equation. Let's just ask the big government politician this question. Does that 3.5% per capita personal expenditure increase per year on average from 98 to 2015, does that happen because the government grows over 7% on average from 98 to 2015? Or does it happen in spite of the government growth? Is it almost miraculous that it happens to begin with? If the government were smaller, would that number be higher? And I think you can absolutely say, yes, if you leave more money in people's pockets, they would spend more. We have a serious government growth problem that the Republican Party has failed to address to this point. Conduit for Action writes, these numbers highlight that government expenditures have grown at nearly double the rate that GDP and personal expenditures have grown in Arkansas. This growth is simply unsustainable and demands serious reforms. Get to the next graph, Joe. Let's look at state expenditures per capita. Now, this is a great one. Look at this. The source here is the Henry J. Kaiser Family Foundation, National Association of State Budget Officers. Okay? Let's look at Illinois, a home of Chicago, 4,947 per capita. California, which is ranked 30th in total state expenditures per capita, 6,420. New York, 36th, 7,287. And these are basically referencing a lot of David Crow's numbers from last week. Or the big one, which is Arkansas, ranked 38th, total state expenditures per person, $7,991 per person. Arkansas has one of the higher state expenditures per capita rates in the country. In fiscal year 2015, Arkansas state expenditures per capita was $7,991, placing us on the 38th out of 50. Larger liberal states, listen, California, New York, Illinois, spends less per capita than Arkansas. That's weird. You want to see a politician squirm? They got more people, more taxpayers. You want to see a politician squirm? You go and you ask them why that is the case. And if you're ready for it, go back to David Crow's article at Conduit for Action and pull the numbers on this when they compare Arkansas to not California, New York, and Texas. They compare Arkansas to states with populations within 1 million people either side, plus or minus, of Arkansas. And their governments are still almost 40% smaller than ours. We have serious problems. And they don't want to, do they want to address it? Or do they want you to think they've addressed it and have actually done nothing but help themselves? What's the solution here? Solution: contain government growth through the tax expenditure limit. One big step toward a solution to constraining government growth is to simply restrict the amount of money state government can spend. Rather than allowing it to spend all that comes into the door under a thriving economy, we should place predetermined limits on increases in spending. This is called a tax expenditure limit. Conduit for Commerce has written an article which goes into detail on the importance and positive outcomes of a tax expenditure limit, and they highlight that article. Scroll down and see that they can see they can click there. You see, right there where it says here. You see it's highlighted there. Keep going at the bottom of the page. You see right there. So that's going to be your link to the CFA. The CFC about tax expenditure limits. And CFC argues a responsible tax expenditure limit would place an expenditure cap equal to the previous year's expenditures plus inflation and population growth. Now, some may see this as reducing the size and scope of government, but it does place. Some may not see this as reducing the size and scope of government, but it does place a responsible limit on growth. A constitutionally imposed tax expenditure limit allows government expenditures to keep pace with inflation and necessary services for a growing population while constraining expenditures from growing beyond those limits. Although this method of constraint would allow increases from year to year, the increases would be significantly less than currently exist. Likewise, the spending cap would not prohibit the legislature from making spending cuts, which could actually reduce the size and scope of government. Essentially, a tax expenditure limit would be the people telling government how much it can increase spending and then leaving it to the government to prioritize. This cap in spending would work in Arkansas alongside the Revenue Stabilization Act, and in the event the legislature decided to tax its citizens $1 trillion, the spending cap would not allow them to spend it. An effective tax expenditure limit is recommended here would include a trigger for a tax refund/rebate returning any tax dollars received over the spending cap back to the taxpayer. This article is fantastic, and it's sourced as well, so you need to check that out. The conclusion, it's time for a solution by the people based on the facts and figures shown in this article from our own Arkansas government. Websites, Arkansas's elected officials have a government spending problem. A responsible tax expenditure limit written into the state constitution would help contain government growth in Arkansas when the legislature or the governor will not. Wow. Don't you know the politicians certainly would hate to have something like that on the ballot? Gosh. 870-275-9799. Call or text 870-275-9799. Back in a minute.
Protecting your business means protecting your data. But is your business really prepared to handle the growing threat of things like cybercriminals and ransomware? At iTex, they're committed to deploying the best security solutions to protect your business and your bottom line. Security threats are constantly evolving. So are security needs. Be proactive now and equip your business with the best cybersecurity available with iTex. Call them today for a free consultation at 870-336-9778. That's 870-336-9778 or itexusa.com. The Northeast Arkansas Real Estate School offers continuing education classes for your local boards of realtors, local offices, and will even offer discounts for large groups. They'll come to you, set up shop, teach anywhere in Arkansas, and as always, make learning fun and motivating. The Northeast Arkansas Real Estate School is licensed by the Arkansas Real Estate Commission and must adhere to their rules and regulations. Give them a call today at 870-336-4155. That's 870-336-4155, or find out about class times and schedules at neaprofessionalschools.com. That's neaprofessionalschools.com. Mention my name, Paul, and receive 10% off.
Buy, sell, and trade at Triple R Pawn in Ash Flat. Firearms, computers, sporting goods, musical instruments, tools, jewelry, and everything else you can think of. It's all at Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat. Gun enthusiasts, log on now to triple-rpawn.com and browse their amazing inventory. That's triple-rpawn.com. You can also call them at 870-994-PAWN. That's 870-994-7296. Let the great team at Triple R Pawn help you find what you're looking for. That's Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat, triple-rpawn.com, or call 870-994-PAWN.
This is Dan Sullivan with the Liberty Moment. Government is not the author or source of our rights, and you don't make America great again by giving one man in Washington all the power. You make America great again by recovering a constitutional republic where Washington is populated by people who are servant leaders who want to return power to the people and communities. Because what makes America great again in this country are its Rotary clubs, small businesses, churches, schools, fire departments, and little leagues across this land. God bless the people who hear this truth. Senator Ben Sasse.
Paid for by Sullivan for Arkansas. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
The Paul Harrell Program.
Hey, folks. 870-275-9799. Here we have I'm sure a story that you're going to love. We missed this. This was back on the 8th of June. Michael Wickline has a story about Mike Preston. Mike Preston is the head honcho over at the Arkansas Economic Development Commission. You know, that one state agency that you have to survive as an Arkansan, right? If the Arkansas Economic Development Commission went away, the sun would not rise. It would not rise, and if the AEDC, if it went away while the sun was up, it would just fall from the sky. It would be horrible if the Arkansas Economic Development Commission didn't exist in their eyes. No. For the second year in a row, they've decided to give the chief of the Arkansas Economic Development Commission a $50,000 bonus. You see, when he signed the contract, it was all set up, and he would get a 30% bonus every year. 30% of his $167,706 a year salary. Man, $50,000. This guy gets a bonus for spending taxpayer money well, whatever the definition of well is. This guy gets a bonus for this guy's bonus is the median household income in Arkansas. And he gets it for taking your money and giving it away to private corporations. That's who this guy is. He's also the guy that made the Chinese announcement along with Governor Hutchinson that the Chinese were coming again. They were coming to St. Francis County. They're going to open up a textile plant or whatever, whatever it is. Eventually, we'll figure out if we actually get those jobs. We're getting 900 jobs in 25 years, maybe someday, eventually in 25 years. But this guy, Mike Preston, he stood before these Chinese CEOs, Chinese CEO or whatever, and he said this. Remember this? Play this.
Chairman Chu, Rui, welcome to Arkansas. And then, Chairman, you'll look out in the audience and you'll see multiple members of the governor's cabinet. We're also here to support you. You'll see multiple members of the state legislative assembly. They're here to support you, and specifically Senator Caldwell, Senator Ingram, Representative Murdoch, Representative Hollowell. These are your senators and your representatives now.
Stop.
You call on them and they're going to help you.
You call on them and they're going to help you, guaranteed. These are your senators and representatives now because, you guys got American citizenship along with this taxpayer deal. What that statement right there, though, that's worth the $50,000 bonus, saying something that is legally not a true statement. No, I mean, they're not citizens under the Arkansas Constitution. Those are not their senators and representatives. They're the people of Arkansas. They're not that guy. They're not Chairman Chu. Chairman Chu doesn't have any senators here. If he wants to have a senator, he can go back to his country, and he can, try to vote, or maybe start a movement to vote. I don't know, but probably not going to work out too well for him. Yeah, or apply to become a citizen, But apparently, Mike Preston, that gets a $50,000 bonus, which is, like that's the median household income here in Arkansas, for giving away your money to other people and then making a statement like that. It's just worth noting that that's the mentality here. These are your representatives. They're going to be here for you when you call. And the sad truth is, it's probably true. Chairman Chu would probably have an easier time getting a hold of an Arkansas senator than you would. And there's something wrong with that. Back in a minute.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
That little people out here working in a hospital couldn't be compelled to get involved in performing abortions or doing other procedures that violate their conscience. And so there's no difference between that. And so does this administration support pro-life? Yes, they do. But the minute that it gets crossways with corporate interests that don't want freedom of conscience legislation and bathroom bills and that kind of thing, then I find myself on the short end of the stick every time that happens.
Yeah, and that's incredible. Yeah, and that's another part of this letter from back in April that I guess the committee that voted this down, 80% of the committee membership is pro-life Republicans, but the bill failed. And you say that's because the governor sent some people in there to say, hey, this is not a good idea.
Yes.
Wow. Unbelievable. And I'm glad, I'm so glad, Jerry, that you came on the program, president of the Family Council, everybody, because this is some of the stuff that I've been saying, and I focus. I love the family value stuff, but I focus on the economic stuff. But this is kind of happening across the board with the Republican Party platform, and so it's very helpful to have you on to shine a light on this. And you're experiencing the same thing, and hopefully we can get our politicians to make different choices.
Well, I have a greater respect for liberals who have resolve and will stand up and just stand by what they believe many times than I do people that have no backbone and no resolve to stand up for anything other than what somebody tells them to. And that's what troubles me about some folks. Now, they're not all that way. I mean, many of our lawmakers are really solid, good folks, and I would give them very high marks for their performance. But like I said, some are not everything that they claim to be, and, that's disappointing.
Jerry Cox, president of the Family Council. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.
All righty. Have a great day. Folks, the website is familycouncil.org, by the way. Isn't that right, Joe? familycouncil.org. Go and check them out. They are really good folks. Got to go to break. Back in a minute.
Shows, Apple users can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Don't have an Apple device? Head on over to paulharrell.com and click on Podcast. It's free and available 24/7 because the Liberty Machine never sleeps.
right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for being with us today. Phone number, if you want to call or text us, 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Little interesting thing here. We're going to be talking with Donnie Copeland here in a minute, sometime in this segment, and he's going to Randolph County. Him and Josh Waters are headed to Randolph County. They're going to talk to the Randolph County Republican Committee. Let me tell you something. It is not going under the radar. What Josh Waters and Donnie Copeland are doing at these county committees, it is not going unnoticed. And you know, if I were, everybody just needs to know it. I mean, I'm not afraid of the truth. I think the establishment's afraid of the truth. They're afraid of the folks back home getting an unfiltered message of the truth. And they don't really they don't like what's going on. They don't like what's being publicized. They're going to reach out. They're going to try to squelch the truth. I'm sure the establishment, they're probably going to be following up. You know what I'm saying? Like they're gonna go to Faulkner County Republicans and the establishment's going to be like, yeah, you can't listen to Josh Waters and Donnie Copeland. Will you be able to dispute their information about what transpired? And the answer is no, you can't. You could trash their character, which you can't. Not in any serious way. You could trash Conduit for Action, which, again, a dispute that's, you may not like the information because it's true, but, dispute the fact. Let's argue on the facts, right? I'll give you an example of the level of paranoia that exists within the establishment ranks of the Republican Party of Arkansas. Back in 2015, was covering the legislative session, and everything was pretty much said and done by March. Well, it just so happened in March, we got the program got a new affiliate. We got an affiliate out of Russellville, and we love our listening audience out of Russellville in the Arkansas River Valley area. We love those of you who are listening in Conway, Perry, Pope counties, Yell counties, and we're on now. The affiliate we're on out of Russellville now is 610 a.m. KARV 5 days a week is a giant AM signal. It gets into parts of Pulaski County. That's how big this AM signal is for the program. We really like it. Now, before that, we were on we were on KCAB before that. But that was the initial one. That was still a big station, very well listened to station, just like KRV is. All right, so the reason I say all this is about a month or two after we started broadcasting into the Russellville market, about a month or so, I got word that the majority leader, Senator Jim Hendren, was going to be speaking at the Tri-County Tea Party in Russellville, and so I decided, I was like, oh, Jim Hendren's speaking to the Tea Party. I wonder what he's going to say. I had no idea what I was in store for. So I go to Russellville, and I do the show from the affiliate studios there in Russellville, and then after the show, I go downtown Russellville, and I'm waiting on Senator Hendren to get there, and there's a Tea Party meeting there that's well attended, and Senator Hendren comes in, he sees that I'm there, we exchange, how are you doing, that sort of thing. Nothing, no real tension to speak of, even though, I'd been on the radio calling him out for essentially saying that his bill did something it did not do, which was end Obamacare Medicaid expansion, and that was the big issue. Well, Senator Hendren has a slideshow, and he starts going through this slideshow. This is the majority leader, still today, the majority leader of the Arkansas Senate, Jim Hendren. In his slideshow, it was about me. He had my picture in his slideshow. He started throwing pictures up of my whiteboard that called, when we initially called the Health Reform Task Force a task farce. And you could imagine how awkward everything got from that point on. I mean, just in terms of I was like, oh man, am I glad I attended this meeting? And I say all that to say this. Senator Hendren, he probably didn't think I was going to show up at this meeting. He might have considered it, but I can't possibly think that he did. The point being was the information that I was giving the people on a new radio affiliate, okay, was obviously something that they were trying to combat. And so what did they do? They went in to try to combat what they were hearing on the radio waves. That is because they didn't like the truth that they were hearing. And that's what I'm saying is the establishment doesn't like Donnie Copeland and Josh Waters going around to these, not Tea Parties, but Republican county committees and showing them legislation. Here is line and paragraph what actually happened. Were the principles of the Republican Party platform adhered to? No, not very often. Did government grow? Yeah, it did. Joining me now to talk about more on this, we do have former State Representative Donnie Copeland on the line. I understand you're en route to Randolph County to speak to the county Republicans there, Donnie.
I am on Air Force 2 as we speak.
Oh, wow.
Flying over. It's a Toyota Corolla, though. It's not a helicopter. So you're not in your Maserati. Josh didn't loan you his Maserati? No, that guy won't even let me hardly ride in it, much less drive it. So I'm in my Toyota. Wow. That's awesome. Hey, did you catch, or you were on, you caught a little bit of what I was saying. I was kind of just walking down memory lane because, this idea, I mean, you guys have been well received at these county committees. We talked about it last week. Are you, I was talking to somebody who was going to the meeting later tonight. They were saying that it was going to be a pretty big turnout. They were expecting a big crowd for you guys up there. Yeah, it's been, it has been phenomenal in every place we have gone. And here's the thing, Paul, I think that is very important is, look, we aren't looking at this thing from a personality standpoint. We don't call people out. We don't say, this person, that person. We will give who sponsored the bill or so forth. But this is about principles with us. It's about, you said that you were a principled conservative, and you ran on that platform of the Conservative Party, and then you're doing nothing. You have Democrats voting with you almost 100% of the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. Matter of fact, there's going to be a scorecard, coming out, I think, tomorrow, kind of for Commerce scorecard. And it's going to, I'm just telling you folks, it's going to be amazing to see, who's actually progressive. And, the party lines almost don't mean anything anymore. Donnie, did we lose Donnie? Donnie, you're there? No, I'm here.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
here.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't want you to be safe. You got your hands at 10 and 2, right?
I do.
Okay.
In fact, I was trying not to get on speakerphone, but I'm trying to play it safe. So. Okay. So surely, I mean, I'm really glad that you brought that point up. You guys are not going into these meetings calling people out. You're not going into these meetings saying, this person, that person. You're just saying, look, they had something called a legislative session. It started in January. And Republicans have these massive majorities. And here's what they did. And then you kind of leave it to them to draw the conclusion of here's what they didn't do, right? Well, absolutely. And here's what's been happening is they start bringing up their legislators and saying, what do you think about them? And I said, and naming names. And I'm like, look, just look at their record. I love all of them, but I don't care who they are. If it's my own flesh and blood and they're not voting correctly, there has to be repercussions for that. And so we've tried really hard to not make this, in any way, shape, form, or fashion about personality.
Man, that'd be so hard for me. I that'd be so hard for me. If I would, I don't admire you guys because if somebody, if I was at one of those meetings, they'd be like, well, what about this legislator? And I'm like, well, let's see, he's like the most liberal one ever. I'd have to just say that. I'd have to be like, well, he needs to be primaried. Like I would just say, yeah, you guys got to get him out of there. He's terrible.
Yeah, and my personality, I love getting along with everybody, but I'm a straight shooter, and so I got to ask about the leadership, and I had to say, look, and here's how I open almost every meeting, and I'll tell your listeners already know that they're so highly informed and educated because they do listen to you, but we recognize so readily the deception and betrayal on the federal level, but we don't always recognize it on the state level. But I would contend it's as bad, if not worse, than the federal level.
Wow, I mean that's a bold accusation. I think. I mean, I would agree with you. I mean, I would agree with you just because I see it firsthand. You know what I mean? I mean, and there's just not any reporting on it. I mean, at least you have these well-trafficked sites like conservative media. I mean, there is a huge contingent of conservative media, a lot more than there used to be, that calls out Paul Ryan, that calls out Mitch McConnell, that says, hey, that we can actually apply pressure on them. There's not, I mean, aside from Conduit for Action, and maybe a group like Americans for Prosperity or something like that. That's not really a thing,
No, I mean it really. I believe it's Caleb Taylor,
Arkansas Project. Yeah, they do it too. Yeah. I didn't mean to leave them out.
They'll call things out, but no one does it on a continual basis and holds people's feet to the fire like Conduit and like your show. It's not happening. And man, you cannot believe the response from people saying, thank you, there's someone like you out here that's letting us know what's going on. We were down in DeShay County, and they were like, man, we didn't know. One lady, I got to tell you this real quick. We had a lady that fought the special election. She was a blind lady. She was so sweet. And she said, I'm glad they finally did away with that farce of special elections where these school boards, have votes on rainy Tuesday night to get these special elections. And somebody said, no, that got defeated. And she was just crushed. She didn't know that till we were down there telling her.
Wow. And of course, that's on James Sturch's shoulders. I mean, that's firmly placed on him. CFA exposes why, because he walked out, and that's what killed the bill. Man, that's unbelievable. So you're going to be in Randolph County, and what time is that, and where is it at? Do you know?
That's going to be at 107 West Broadway, downtown Pocahontas, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's at we were told some historic building, and maybe the historic courthouse downtown. I apologize if I'm getting that right, but I do know
I think we lost him. Donnie, you're still there. Can you hear me?
At 6:30.
6:30. All right.
Yeah,
want to make sure we get the time in. Hey, Donnie, I appreciate it. So in Randolph County Republican meeting, and that's at 6:30. Say the address one more time.
107 West Broadway, and it's open to everybody. You don't have to be a Republican or a part of their committee to be there tonight.
That's a big deal. You don't have to be a Republican. So calling all independents and, no Democrats. I'm just joking. If Democrats want to come, they can come.
Yeah, if we got Democrats that believe in smaller government, we'd love to have them.
All righty. Donnie Copeland, former state representative. Hey, appreciate it, sir. Be safe, okay?
Thank you, Paul, for what you do, man.
All righty, folks, the number, if you want to call or text us, 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. I really hope I know they are. They're going to knock it out of the park. They're going to get that same response. They're going to get the same response. And there's going to be quite a few listeners of the Paul Harrell program in Randolph County. I can promise you that as well. And just because, first of all, they're well in range of our great station here in Northeast Arkansas, and AM 1230, 101.3 FM, KBTM. So, and we appreciate being on this station. All right, so we're going to take a break. We're going to come back, going to wrap things up. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program. Back in a minute.
Bob Maloney here from ASA News, The Parrot. Breaking news from the Capitol in Little Rock. Over now to our new on-site reporter, Susan Shenanigans. Susan?
Thanks, Bob. The governor has just announced that a blue ribbon task force is to be formed.
Today, I'm asking your support for a blue ribbon legislative task force to be created and directed to recommend further reform.
Now we go live to the chamber to listen in for more information on the task force.
I hereby call this session into order. First on the agenda for today is the formation of the Blue Ribbon Task Force. Is there anyone who would like to give their thoughts on the task force?
Yes, as someone who's deeply conservative, why is the governor choosing the color blue for this task force? Sounds like he's really a Democrat loyalist. Why not a red ribbon to prove he's a true conservative?
Well, I represent Walmart, and we agree with the color of the task force ribbon. The color blue is best consistent with the Walmart brand.
I object to this choice. Blue is the wrong color ribbon for this task force.
Well, who are you?
I am Mr. P.C. Wrights, and I represent Target, and we want the ribbon to be red, not blue.
Hold it right there. This seems like a tough decision. Why not ask the governor to call a special session at a later date for an important decision as this?
I think this is something worth talking about. I motion that we decide the color of the ribbon today.
I second it. Fine. We can decide it now. Does anyone have any other suggestions for the color of the ribbon?
I think the color should be white.
Whoa. Hold on. Definitely not white.
I agree with Mr. P.C. Wrights. Maybe we should choose green for the farmers.
You like the color green because you are a farmer. I think it should be purple, so we can display how Arkansas is an extremely moderate state.
Why are we even discussing this? Shouldn't we be talking about tax reform instead of wasting time with this?
Well, the people have spoken. They believe this is worth talking about, so we are deciding this now.
Excuse me, sir, but shouldn't the color of the ribbon be rainbow to include all types of people?
Please, silence your phones.
I just received a call from Walmart HQ, and they agree with, what was your name again? My name is Fabulous. They agree with Fabulous that the color should be rainbow.
Target concurs with the decision of it being rainbow-colored ribbon.
Is there a motion to make the ribbon rainbow-colored?
I motion to make the color rainbow.
I second the motion. The motion carries because I said so.
The committee will now vote and not be on record to keep the people in the dark. Back to you, Bob.
Thank you, Susan. And thank you for listening to ASA News, The Parrot. Next up, there are reports of a gorilla on top of the Capitol Dome demanding massive sums of taxpayer cash. His name? Medicaid expansion.
PHP Parody.
Yes, that was the parody that got me labeled a bigot by one of our listeners, I guess, last week. So watch out. But it's still, it was directed at us. Or it was directed at me. But yeah, but Joe here in the other room, he certainly helped out. All right, so we started this hour. We were laughing really hard. I can't even remember how it came up, but we were talking about genetics. And I mentioned, and it might have been. Do you know how? Was it?
Okay, so I remember we were talking about hunting because I've never been hunting before and I've always wanted to go. And you said, and I said I've always wanted to go duck hunting. Well, the reason I want to go duck hunting is because I used to shoot skeet in high school, so I feel like I'd be okay.
Oh, you'd be a good, yeah. Well, duck hunting is kind of it's more of a luxury. I mean, I'm not to. I mean, there's a lot of people that love duck hunting, but when I think of hunting, and I've duck hunted before, but I didn't really start deer hunting until later in life, and so I said it's a kind of, to me, it's spiritual, being out in the woods. Taking the life, it's kind of a spiritual experience. And you said that sounded kind of ridiculous.
Well, it just sounded funny to me because I've never heard of it. I've never heard of it thought as a spiritual experience.
Okay, so then I said, well, maybe it's because, and for all of you Elizabeth Warren fans out there, you're going to love this. I said, well, maybe maybe it's a genetic thing because I'm either like 164th or 132nd Native American.
So I've got some Native American in me too on my grandmother's side.
Yeah, okay, and a lot of people do. It's not a big deal. Well, so we're coming back from break. I can't believe it. We're coming into the first hour of the show, and I'm just like, yeah. I mean, the reason I know that I'm one or the other is because my great grandmother. We're going through my parents' attic, and we find this photo of her, and I'm like, Mom, who is that? And she's like, well, that's it's your great grandmother on my side or whatever. And so I'm trying to describe this to Joe. And I was like, this woman in this photo looks full. I mean, she's either half or full-blooded Native American. And what did so I'm just describing this the way a typical American would describe this, and it's just amazing to me how much she looks like a Native American looks, a full-blooded Native American looks. And I said, no joke, I said, I mean, how?
How?
That's not that, but not like that. I just said, I mean, but I mean, how? And then I immediately was like, oh my gosh, that's.
Yeah, we were both laughing pretty hard.
That's such a.
I was laughing really hard because it was completely unexpected. Neither one of us had even thought about it, and he said how, and we both lost it.
I mean, I did, and yeah, exactly. We both lost it. And I didn't. I just was talking in just general terms, like how could, how could she be in our bloodline? You know what I mean? Because I don't look Native American.
So, yeah, Paul doesn't look very Native.
You know what I mean? Like, I guess if I'd lose a little weight, I could pull the Elizabeth Warren. Well, I have high cheekbones because that's what Elizabeth Warren said. When she claimed she got into you're right. She got into school claiming she was Native American. They found that out, and it was just a big to do. But the whole thing is
Paul, you look very European.
We debated telling that story. This is the bad part. This is how I'm even guilty of this fascistic speech police, because there's nothing bad in that. I mean, that was just something that happened, and it was legitimate, and then it was funny. It was comedy, right? It was
comedy gold.
But how come I even hesitated? That's the real question, is why did I hesitate, being like, man, do we really need to tell that to people? I mean, it's funny that I did that. It's a funny thing. But what kind of society is it where I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to share that with the audience because somebody might think, oh, well, that's racist. Not that but that the fact that it happened and then we laughed at it, And the truth is, I mean, that kind of stuff happens every day. And if we're going to start saying that there's something wrong with that, then good grief,
what have we become?
I mean, at some point, it's just like, okay, well, if this is the kind of world we live in, I mean, what's the point of even trying at anything?
Exactly.
Joe, though, I did think of you this weekend. One last thing. So, speaking of Marvel movies that nobody wants to see but will go see and will be a huge success, although I did think this may be a hard sell. We're talking about Black Panther, the superhero movie.
I haven't seen the trailer yet.
Okay, the trailer's pretty cool. But Black Panther has already been introduced in the Marvel universe because he was in Captain America Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
But you should go watch the trailer, because I did think for a second, well, I'm going to go see this because it's a Marvel movie, and Marvel movies are awesome. And at this point, the story is so captivating, you don't want to miss a second of the chapter of any continuation. It's a new story, but it's obviously going to continue the larger plot line.
Yeah.
But I did think to myself, I said, this might be bad. This might not be a good movie. First time I've thought of that in a while. So I'm just saying.
From what I understand, a friend of mine did see the Black Panther trailer. He said it looks more like an origin story style.
It is. It certainly is.
Movie.
Although it's going to happen post Civil War, Captain America Civil War, from what I can tell. Maybe I'm wrong.
The origin story starts pre-Civil War.
Well, right, I know it does, but I'm saying it seems like this is. I mean, we're going to get an origin story, but I think it'll probably some sort of convention that flashes back and comes into present day. Maybe. I don't think people want to see it. That's just me, but maybe I'm wrong. Well, still haven't seen Wonder Woman yet, though.
Black Panther's storyline's pretty simplistic.
Yeah,
it's the warrior king that defends his people. Once he gets too old to become the warrior anymore, right. The prince takes over, becomes the warrior and prince, and then eventually the warrior king.
Yeah,
it's a very simplistic storyline.
Right. Well, some point we need to talk about in the same Marvel. Well, in Marvel, but in different universes. What's stronger, adamantium or vibranium? See, Joe even knows the answer. He's good, folks. We have one more hour coming your way next. For those of you listening on Mountain Talk 97.1 in North Central Arkansas in the Twin Lakes area. For the rest of you guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for starting the beginning of your week with us here. We'll see you tomorrow.
CBS News Now.